We're back here with John DiLeo, author of There Are No Small Parts, 100 Outstanding Film Performances with Screen Time of 10 Minutes or Less. And he did one for us on Marilyn Monroe, and it was such a big hit. We asked him if we could come back again, and he said that it was okay. So he has another episode for us today. It's another great performance. And who did you have?
We're going to talk about Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff, he's scary.
Yeah, in a little-known movie called Lured from 1947, because a lot of the performances in the book, it's sort of lesser-known actors in very famous movies. This is the reverse, a very famous actor in a somewhat obscure movie.
Was he a monster guy from the beginning, or he was...
In this, I mean, by the time you get to this one, yeah, he's able to be far enough away from it where he's able to spoof it as well as still be it. And this is an interesting mix of people. First, before I get to Boris, the director's Douglas Sirk, who would become very famous in the 50s for those Technicolor melodramas like Written on the Wind and All That Heaven Allows. And Magnificent Obsession and Imitation of Life. So this is an early one of his Hollywood films. It's a black and white mystery. The star of the movie is Lucille Ball in a non-comic role as a beautiful showgirl who's from America, stranded in London when a show closes, and she becomes a decoy for the cops and trying to lure some guy who's... there's a missing woman that was a friend of hers, and they're using Lucy as bait. So she's in more of her wisecracking, tough cookie mode, but very beautiful, very glamorous. And Boris Karloff at this point was a very famous person, but the role is only 7.5 minutes long. So it's essentially a cameo. And he's one of the people who answers her personal ad, which again is just bait to get the killer to come out, or the abductor.
Is he the killer?
No, he's a total red herring. That's what's kind of so fun about the role is essentially, it's scary, but it's also very funny. And then when it's over, he was really just a red herring. But he's clearly there because of his reputation as Boris Karloff. He's got big billing at the front of the movie, but he plays a basically insane fashion designer who lost his mind when somebody stole his big design, and he never got over it, and he's lived in a state of constant paranoia for something like 25 years. So he's looking for a model to recreate this moment, and he dresses her up, and he has an audience of there's a dog and there's mannequins, so he's obviously crazy, but the crazy funny part of it takes a twist when a couple of things put him on edge, and then he becomes a maniac, and then Lucy's life is really in danger. And so what I love about the performance is it plays off of his persona. When it's scary, but it's very witty and charming and funny when he's, as I said, spoofing himself. So it's really just a cameo playing on all the things everyone loved about him. And it's a few years after he did Arsenic and Old Lace on Broadway, which again, he had spoofed himself, and that had gone over very well. So he had already had some experience spoofing himself successfully. And so it's a neat little movie. And like I said, his 7.5 minutes somewhere in the middle of it are totally delightful. And it's a beautiful black and white movie.
He's almost like a caricature of himself.
He is, but at least he was able to be in on the joke as opposed to when some actors, do they know they're just a caricature of themselves and we're not buying it anymore and it's looking a little desperate, a little... He's doing it. He's making us laugh, and I always thought he was an underrated actor. And once he got pigeonholed in horror, even within that, he was able to do some really great work in another film I love of his is Isle of the Dead from 1945, just a little bit before this one. So they didn't really let him do too much out of the horror genre once he got established, and that was very limiting. But he also has his claim at immortality for having been so identified with one thing, obviously the Frankenstein monster, but essentially the whole genre. You think of him, I do, first more than anybody else as a performer in that genre.
Right. In Lord, his job was to make us think he was the murderer for a little while.
Yes.
And he did it well.
Yes. Yes, he did, and like I said, but he's also in a way he's the comic relief as well, which is really kind of fun. So he's like it's like walking a fine line of being a little campy, a little scary, and very funny in a very witty kind of sophisticated way.
What's so fascinating to me sometimes is in I'm not I know so little that I don't know like where in each person's career they were when
Sure.
something like this happened. So like,
Sure.
was Lucy already established as a comedian, or she was not yet, or
No, these were those years where she's gonna be eventually giving up on the movies, and it's sort of petering out. But it wasn't her fault. She's wonderful in everything she does in the 1940s, and she has some big roles. And maybe the movies aren't always successful as somebody else's, but she's funny in some things. This is not a comic role. She's certainly beautiful enough to be a movie star, and she can act when I mean, in dramas when she has to. So her lack of movie stardom never seemed to be her fault. It just was bad luck, or just the wrong opportunities. The way I Love Lucy clicked, she never got a movie role that did the same thing for
Right.
her to put her over in that way.
and then she was kind of typecast in that she couldn't play a serious role anymore.
Well, I guess yes, you could say that too. Then she kind of locked into Lucy Ricardo and then those other incarnations, and she tried to do like Mame and do something else every once in a while. But then I would think once you're 40 and you're finally at the top, you don't want to mess with the success that took you so long
Yeah.
to achieve. I always love to seek out Boris Karloff in just about anything, whether it's an A movie or a B movie or a C movie. He never disappoints.
Thanks so much for talking with us. I hope we'll get a chance to have another one pretty soon.
Great.
Thanks again. It's John DiLeo. The book is There Are No Small Parts: 100 Outstanding Film Performances with Screen Time of 10 Minutes or Less. Thanks again, John.
Thanks, Nick.
Be sure to check out John's book, There Are No Small Parts, to read about the other 99 performances of 10 minutes or less. And also subscribe to this channel. It's free, so you don't miss our next episode. It's on Al Pacino's 6 Minutes of Screen Time in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Thanks for watching.